Good evening. This is meteorologist DT with our Sunday evening Snowstorm Podcast. Sorry, I've been away for a couple days up at Charlottesville at a game convention, but we're back at work now here and lots to talk about as the winter comes to an end and the potential for two events on the East Coast here of some significance. So let's get right to it. We'll start up by taking a look at our snowstorm matrix, and we can see some changes. Yay! Last time it was all pink, which is that no snowfall threat. But we can see, so for the next 3 days, obviously there's nothing going on anywhere east of the Mississippi River. Then March 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, which is day 4, 5, and 6, we have blue, which is moderate accumulating snow for the Midwest, the Ohio Valley. Nothing for the Deep South. Interior Northeast has a chance for significant snow, and then I-95 moderate snow. And then for May 4, 5, and 6, something for the Ohio Valley again, and moderate snow, possibly, maybe, for the I-95 area once again. So we'll see if that works out. Definitely the more concerned about the March 2nd event than the one on March 6th, but both events have to be watched very carefully. All right, this here is the overall pattern as of Sunday afternoon on the afternoon European. And we can see several important things here. Obviously, this here is our polar vortex. There it is right there. And we have our ridge very nicely defined right here. Okay, we have one short wave coming through here, which is part of a cold front at the surface, and another piece of energy coming through here. And up here is the block over the United Kingdom, which is coming over to the east, which is coming from the United Kingdom southward towards, of course, Greenland and eventually towards North America. Well, ideally towards North America. And that block is obviously an important feature and is going to be an important feature for some time to come. Meanwhile, we still continue to have a lot of energy coming in from the Pacific here, and that's also going to be an issue. So last week, I remember if we talked about potential for something like March 1962, but that was dependent on, as I said, the trough going out into this area, not staying on the west coast. So that's something we have to wait and see if that actually happens. Now, these were our temperatures yesterday. You can see how warm it was. Again, the southeastern U.S. very warm in this whole area, as you can see, all the way down actually into here. So, and then all the cold temperatures are up in this area, as you can see. So that's not severely cold for late February, but it's seasonally cold, no doubt about that. And then this is the rainfall from 2 days ago. Oops, that's not a good idea. And you can see here that this is the rainfall. February 24th, ending the 24th. And underneath the ridge in the southeastern states where the ridge is very strong, there was no rain at all. And then over here is the cold air, so the battle line remains this area in here. And they saw significant rain from the 23rd into the 24th. They also had some severe weather, as we know, in Oklahoma and Missouri. And then the new, they call it the new map here. And then this is the max temperatures for Saturday. And you can see it's very warm again. Southeast Virginia. And interestingly enough, I was up in Charlottesville, temperatures in the mid 50s, but Virginia was in the low to mid 70s. And then all the way down into here, very warm temperatures. And here's the cold stuff. And this is the battle zone in between where the fronts have been running. And sure enough, if we look at the rainfall maps, we can see it's exactly that. This is rainfall 24 into 25 into Sunday morning. And we can see it's very impressive rain. Again, there was also some reports of severe weather. But you can see the significant rain. That red color, 4 or 5 inches of rain in here. The dark yellow is 3 inches of rain. And nothing in Virginia underneath the ridge. But it is slowly getting this direction, beginning to push a little bit that way. Now this is how the pattern develops here over the next few days, so pay attention, a lot to talk about here. Well, let's call it the block first. There is the block. We still have our trough on the west coast, so this strong piece of energy, this is going to get ejected eastward, and there's another piece here, and this is the polar vortex. So notice the flow is still essentially zonal. There's no real cold air coming to the country. And we still have a bit of a flat ridge here over the southeastern states. So again, the cold air over the upper plains, Great Lakes, not coming south anytime soon. So the first system is going to be rainmaker for the East Coast. That's pretty obvious. By first system, I mean the one on the 28th. So this here is the upper air pattern now for March 1st. Actually February 28th into March 1st. And a couple of features. Remember, there's that piece of shortwave coming down from Alaska. That came down this way. And there's the other feature that was in California. That's now here. Here's the block, though. The block is going in this direction. So these features are going to be forced to stay underneath it. because the block is coming in this way. So, and there's an upper low here as well. This is a very good setup when you have a low and a high like that. That's called a Rex block, REX, a Rex block. So that's an important feature. Let me make sure I got the right map up here. Yeah. And this here is the 96-hour European. And we can see, again, the blocking feature very pronounced. Oh, I call my marker right here. And remember that piece of energy which was over here. Now look what it's doing. It's being forced to go underneath the block. You see that? Because it's coming underneath it in that direction. The block is moving this way, so this piece of energy is forced to go like that. That's the significance of having the block over Greenland. That's why the potential exists for significant East Coast winter storms when you have a severely strong and negative NAO, because it forces systems over the plain states. It cannot do that. It's forced to come this direction. Here's the next piece of energy coming in down from Alaska there as well. And if we look at the next map, which we can see here, look what happens. Now that piece of energy, oops, there it is before. Call up so you can see it. Okay, here's the piece of energy right here. Now look what happens 24 hours later. Well, 12 hours later actually. You can see it closes off completely. So, and that's all because of the blocking feature in Greenland right here. That's what it does. So this feature was started out here, then here, then here, and now closes off completely. This is a closed 500 low. This is separated from the main jet stream up here. And you have a nice big coastal storm. Meanwhile, we also have a big system hitting the Pacific Northwest. Might bring snow to Seattle or portions of the Pacific Northwest. If we look at this enlarged, we can see even more detail. There's the closed upper low. See it right here. And that's where the best snow usually falls, underneath the closed 500 low. Here's the bit of the block. You can see that. And here's this monster low in the Pacific Northwest, which is coming in this direction. Like I said, could bring snow to Seattle and Portland, places like that. And notice we talked about earlier from March 1962, we said we needed the trough to be off the west coast, and it's not. It's still on the west coast. So the March 1962 scenario is looking less and less likely all the time. And then if we look at the 126 hours, again, this was the setup here, then to here, 126. This is the big map, and you can see the 500 low is now moved off the coast completely, but the blocking pattern is still here, and this trough is like this. So this whole feature is being forced to come southward because of the enormous power of this blocking feature. The Greenland block, the negative NAO, however you want to refer to it, that's what it is. And we see this in more close detail in this image here. And of course, notice what's happened here, folks. This is now negative tilt. Very distinct negative tilt. Big system hitting Portland, Seattle. Negative tilt over New England. So let's review. This is neutrally tilted, but again, you can almost make the argument it's negatively tilted here, like this. But if we go up, let me go up to the scroll here. So here it clearly was not. This is neutrally tilted here. And then if we go in this direction, we can clearly see it's now negatively tilted there and negative tilted here. So very pronounced, very powerful system developing here for New England, I think. Now, as we go beyond that, this is 126 hours. You zoomed in there. 100 to 44 hours, you can see the blocking feature. Very strong. And this system is now trapped underneath it. So this is our Rex block right here. And this system is trying to come inland, but it can't. So as a result, it ends up digging southward because it can't come inland. The energy has to go someplace, and ends up going down towards Southern California. And then if we look at the big map, you can see what is happening here. This is on 144. This is 192 hours. So this is now March 5th. Now the system, the New England coastal storm, the winter storm here for the Northeast, that's now here, trapped underneath the block, which is still here. And this next piece of energy comes racing eastward, going under. It started here. Remember, it was over the Pacific Northwest. It goes like this, and again, it's got to go underneath the block. It cannot go into the block. So any solution which has it taking into the block, which has a surface low going into the block, is bullshit. That's not going to happen. And if we go beyond that, we can see 260 hours. Now I know we're dealing with day 9, but again, here's our blocking feature right there, and the upper low in the energy is right here. It's going underneath it. And this feature also is here. So these two features are connected, and this feature is forced to stay to the south, which is why the one on March 6th and 7th is probably going to be a Virginia, if it happens, North Carolina, Maryland type of event, not a New England event. Now we go beyond the next slide here. You can see it, 240 hours. The system is closed off. Clearly, very noticeable right here, big close 500 low. It's coming in this direction underneath the blocking feature here and the ocean low here. And that's the potential another storm. And there's the next big trough here coming in on the west coast. If we look at this in the surface maps, this here is, okay, this is Thursday night, February 28th, March 1st. We can see the big high here bringing up the southwest winds, rather warm conditions here, humidity, there's the warm front. Okay, that's not a surprise. And if we look at this and regional breakdown, we can see the rain snow line on the morning of March 1st is way to the north. The purple line here, this is the rain snow line right here. You see this? This is the rain snow line right here. That's what this is. Well north of Chicago. There's the low passing through central Illinois. The rain snow line is well to the north of Chicago, Detroit, and Albany. Now if we go here, this is the morning of March 1st. Now this looks like a good position for a snowstorm in Chicago, but you can clearly see the rain snow line is north of Chicago. A good snowstorm for Des Moines, Iowa, and maybe Rockford. Now this is all potentially severe weather in here. This has got the potential to be significant severe weather with a strong jet stream like this. And notice the high is way to the north. It's not really cold Arctic air. You can see the rain snow lines north of Albany still. That's the morning of March 1st. We can look at that in detail. There's the European model. You can see one low right here, and the second low is forming here. But look where that rain snow line is. It's way to the north. It's still north of Chicago, Detroit, Albany, north of Boston. This is the GFS solution. And again, it's got the low very close to Chicago, and the rain snow line, let me highlight it so you can see it. It's right here, this blue line, not the dark blue line, the other one. You can see this, the low is here, secondary low is here. Very similar to what the European is showing. Good agreement here. If we look at the ensemble data, there's the low, southeast of Chicago in the Ohio Valley, and a lot of clusters here. And notice all the clusters showing the primary low here and the secondary low there. So we clearly have one low like this. There's our high, bringing up the warm air and potentially severe weather in that quadrant on March 1st, and we're going into March 2nd. This is the evening of March 1st, and you can see the primary low is now dying over Ohio, and the secondary low is taking over here. That is on the evening of March 1st going into March 2nd. And if we look at the surface map on the European, you can see the storm. There it is, boom. Now the thing is, the rain snow line is still fairly far inland, and one of the reasons for that is because the high is really still to the north. It's not coming plunging southward. So you have some cold air in here, but you can see it's still to the north on the morning of March 2nd on the European, north of New York City, up by Albany, north of Boston, that sort of thing. Finally, we get to, oops, let me clear this out. Now this is the evening of March 2nd. Of course, it's all snow in Boston and New York now, Connecticut, all of Massachusetts. And it may have gone over to snow in Philly. I don't think DC is going to get any snow. This is Baltimore, certainly nothing in Virginia, from what I can see. And then this here is 108 hours. You can see the transfer in more detail. The primary low is here. The secondary low is there. But again, look where that rain snow line is. North of Pittsburgh, north of Binghamton, north of New York, up by Albany. This is 7 p.m. on March 1. This is a rainstorm for everybody right now. And the GFS is showing the same sort of thing. The low is right here. Oops. And the second low is there. And we can see the warm front here, and then obviously like that. But the rain snow line is still, it just cleared Chicago. It's still way up to the north. It's just not, there's not enough cold air. There's way too much warm air ahead of the system. Let me clear it out here. And now this is for the evening of March 1st. Like I said, you can see the transfer taking place here. And then finally, the low gets off the coast in the morning of March 2nd. Now you have a snowstorm. Now you have a snowstorm. You can see the rain snow line is south of New York City. So it's snowing in New York, snowing in North Jersey, much of eastern New York, most of New England. This is a snowstorm now, March 2nd. And the GFS ensemble clearly supports this idea. That's the European operational. This is the GFS operational. And it also has, now the rain snow line is a little further north here, north of Boston, well north of New York like that. But the low is here. And eventually when it gets off the coast, it's going to pull all the cold air to the coast. And you can see that on the ensemble mean, this is the morning of March 2nd. If this is right, there's going to be a significant snowstorm, rain going over the snow, snowing like hell, all on March 2nd, through all of New England, New York City, eastern New York State, northern New Jersey, maybe into Philly or Allentown, maybe. But that's a pretty significant snowstorm. This. If you like snowstorms, this is what you want to see. And if we can see the GFS, it actually rotates the system through there, pulling actually to the southeast a little bit in this direction. So, well, I don't know if that's true or not. That's kind of a reach, but we'll see. If we look at the European ensemble, this is for March 3rd, the evening. The low is well off the coast, and there's strong winds on the coast. In terms of the snowfall amounts, this was the 0Z GFS. This was 0Z Sunday. And you can see just had a little bit of snow in New England, not much. But the updated version of the GFS was significantly snowier, I believe. There you go. And again, notice that a lot of this is the mountains. This is, if you have a topographical map, this is all mountains on the GFS. This is all high terrain, high terrain. This is the valley, Hudson Valley, not much there. Catskills, Adirondacks, big snow there. So this is all, terrain oriented on the afternoon GFS. Now this is the European snow amounts, and this is just, weather bell going crazy here. Now the reason why all the snow amounts on this European is so high is because remember, it sees sleet as snow, and it's not. And it also sees snow. It also sees snow and rain mixed as all snow. So that's why you see 25 inches of snow here, and 15 inches of snow here, and 15 to 20 inches of snow in the Catskills. If you look at, there's a much better model out there which has far more accuracy and much better European snow model depiction, and that's this one. And the European, you can see from EuroWeather, they use a different snow algorithm. They certainly don't use that stupid sleet as snow crap. And it has also significant snow for New England. Not for New York City, not much for Boston, not much for coastal Connecticut and Rhode Island. Now that may change, but this is mostly an elevation snow you can see as well. But going beyond this event, now let's talk about the one later beyond it, March 6th and 7th. Now after the coastal storm leaves, and it's gone out this direction, we have a large cold high to the north, but notice it stays to the north. It does not come plunging southward. It doesn't do that at all. Here's the next system, low pressure over Minnesota, a triple point here in eastern Iowa, warm front, cold front. But again, the cold air does not come plunging southward. Again, based upon what this data is showing. So we'll see what happens after the coastal storm on March 2nd, because that sets up this event for March 6th. And then you can see the low developing here on March 6th. Is that snow for Richmond? Might be. Central Virginia? Might be. Maryland, Delaware? And we can see on 240 hours, the European ensembles does show a significant cluster of second low right here. So that's good news in terms of consistency. If we look at our teleconnections here, we can see that the Arctic oscillation is strongly negative for a while with this next storm here. March 2nd, 3rd, that's good. And then it goes to neutral. This here is the NAO, and you can see it's strongly negative right now, but again it goes up towards neutral. So that by the time we get to the middle of the month, it's almost neutral again. Both of these are by the end of the month. And if we look at the Pacific side of things, this here's the PNA and the Eastern Pacific oscillation. And you can see the PNA, which is generally be negative, gets to neutral here, but that's about it. and the EPO, which is negative, goes up to positive, which is not good for snowstorms by the end of the month. And finally, if we take a look at the MJO here, which is interesting, right now the MJO is in phase 8. Actually, it's in phase 1 now, I should say. It was in phase 8 going into phase 1. And if we look at what that means, that often indicates in February a snowstorm on the East Coast. And we're sure enough, we have two potential events for March 2nd and then in March 6th or 7th. So, in summary, yeah, the potential is there for a significant storm on March 2nd or 3rd. It looks like a New England snowstorm, mostly. And then the other one for the Mid Atlantic is still there from March 6th or 7th. This is meteorologist DET. I'll talk to you soon and see you on the Facebook page.